Hi there, I'm Katy-Rose. Today I want to talk a little bit about the self-development field and particularly the focus on a one-size-fits-all approach. So thinking about some of the advice I've attempted to follow, some of the advice I've been told, some of the advice I've read and heard about from people who perhaps I would quite trust, things that I have recognised or realised or read through things that I have read in sort of academic kind of papers and things like that. And there's very much if you want to do X, you need to do Y. I mentioned this briefly in the last video, talking about how, as general members of the public, we are encouraged to believe in certain beliefs, for lack of a better word, but particularly to look towards certain skills to give us certain outcomes. So for example, this may be, if you want to lose weight, you should go to the gym. The idea of going to the gym if you want to lose weight is not necessarily wrong. However, I think it is not something that works for everyone. And that is something that's really important to recognize when we are thinking about taking advice, giving advice, using advice. There is also a lot of research that tells us, just on a time basis, that we can't outrun our fork, is the phrase that the Nerd Fitness Academy, for example, quote quite regularly. The idea that I can eat a chocolate bar in, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. How much time would it take me to do any form of exercise in order to work off that chocolate bar? It's going to be longer than 45 seconds of any activity, I can tell you. There are certain things that we buy into, and that, myself included, we live in this world where we are told certain things and it is believed so strongly across so many different people that this is how the world works and this is what you need to do and this is the path to follow. But a lot of these things don't work for a majority of people, I would say. And I think that's where it's really difficult, because with the stories that we are told at the moment, the stories that, for example, certainly in the UK, the stories that I grew up hearing was that, well, if this doesn't work for you, there's something wrong with you. Oh, well, that's how that works. But you know that if you go and do exercise, you're going to be burning off your food. So if you're not losing weight, something's wrong with you. You're not doing it right. You're doing something wrong. You're failing. There's a lot of different stories that we're telling ourselves and we're being told, even on a subconscious level. No one's ever told me, oh, you're not losing weight even though you're going to the gym. You're doing something wrong. But I've tried to work out and exercise and eat healthily and not seen any particular changes in my body or noticed too much in my energy levels. My partner has just finished a 30-day challenge of Pilates, and all the comments are, I don't notice this particular change in this area of my body as you claimed in video 1 this would help with. And it's like, I hear you, and yeah, it's so frustrating to do the thing you're told to do. You're told this will fix it and you do it, or this will make this easier or better for you, and you do it and you don't feel, or you don't see those results. It's incredibly frustrating. And it's really hard to know, well, is this me or is this them? Does this just not work? And then there's other people in the other comments saying this worked great for me. You're thinking, what's wrong with me then? Why didn't it work for me? And it is this kind of one-size-fits-all approach that we are encouraged to do. In my mental health training, when I did my qualification to assess and treat people's mental health difficulties, we learned specifically about caffeine, which is found in tea, coffee, many fizzy drinks. And that is a chemical that tells our brain, suppresses tiredness. It suppresses the things that tell us we're really tired now, makes them go away for a bit. So it doesn't necessarily make you more energized. It just tells your body, stops your body from knowing when it's tired. And it increases anxiety. We notice that anxiety symptoms and symptoms of caffeine intake are the same. It is heart palpitations. It is breathing faster. You might notice sort of tingling. You might feel very jittery and like you need to keep moving. as I hold my caffeinated green tea, which has less caffeine than normal tea or coffee, like traditional English breakfast tea or coffee, but still has caffeine in it. But every body is different. So I know people who will have a cup of coffee at 10 p.m. and they will sleep fine. They will not have anxiety. It will be okay. Their body manages it, no problem. I find that if I have caffeine after about 5, 6 p.m., I don't sleep that night. And I notice myself being quite restless and needing to move and play with my hair or whatever it is. So it's one of those things that I'm always careful to say, caffeine can exacerbate or make worse anxiety symptoms. Caffeine can impact our sleep, how well we sleep, how deeply we sleep, how often we wake up or stay in sleep, getting to sleep. But it's different for everybody, and everybody metabolizes, so like processes that caffeine completely different rates. And it might be that actually if you're feeling really stressed, or you've been eating lots of sugar, or you've been doing something else, doing lots of exercise, that your response to caffeine, your body's response to caffeine, will be different one day to the other. A lot of these one-size-fits-all ideas can be really useful to consider alongside the context of whatever else is happening. So yes, caffeine, generally speaking, tends to lead to symptoms similar to anxiety, which if you have anxiety or if you worry about things, can make that worse. However, this is not true for every single individual in exactly the same way. And I think that's where it's really important to think about considering this. So I've worked with many patients who have said, well, I don't drink anything caffeinated. Okay, fantastic. I find that it makes me need the loo too often. It makes me really anxious. It makes me very jittery. It stops me sleeping at night. Okay, if that's how you found it, perhaps you should have less of it. And there are people who go, what? I have a coffee at 9 p.m. and I have no problems with sleep or anxiety. Fantastic. That's brilliant. I'm glad you know that for you, generally speaking, caffeine is okay. It doesn't tend to affect you in the same way it does other people. That's fine. That's human. We are all different. Thinking about the medication that we take, thinking about the lifestyle we have. If you've got any techniques such as cognitive behavioral therapy techniques to manage anxiety, that may mean that you can have more caffeine because you are going to respond mentally with the thoughts and the behaviors differently than someone who is really prone to anxiety and doesn't have the skills to manage that and then has caffeine on top. So I guess the main thing I want to say in this is that whenever you hear a one-size-fits-all approach, just think about the context of your life and what you know about yourself, because that is the biggest factor. That is the information that we are going to need more than any other. So when you're thinking a little bit about what you'd like to do, what your goals are for this year, we're up to the middle of March and spring is definitely in the air. We had a couple of really warm days, sunny days, which is unheard of in England. We don't know what to do with it, quite frankly. And as the spring comes, we may want to start, planning and moving forward and taking those steps towards, our new year, and that growth that we see in nature may. Certainly for me, I find that I want to learn and I want to grow and I want to stretch and I want to be doing things and taking action. My motivation is higher with the kind of the warmer days and the light. I do just find that is how my body works. And with that time, it is really important to then take these one-size-fits-all approaches into consideration with context. So one of the tools that I like to use, I discovered it through narrative practice. And it is the idea that we have dots, story dots, I suppose. So if this happened, then this happened, which meant this happened, and then I felt like this, which meant this happened. And the story I tell follows this line. Having said that, there are plenty of other dots around that are not being used through that line doesn't go through. So for example, if I ran out of toothpaste and I went to the shop and I bought some new toothpaste and it tasted horrible, I would have I ran out of toothpaste, I went to the shop, it tasted horrible. I threw it away. I don't know. I'm not that wasteful. But then there would be other points in that story that would be, oh, I thought I picked that toothpaste because my friend told me about it. And that's why I then picked that one, because it had been recommended to me. Or actually, I did just have a last minute snack before I brushed my teeth that evening. And maybe the toothpaste tasted a bit funny because I'd just eaten something recently. So the story, the points are still the same, but there may be other points we're not using, or we may be using this point instead of this point. And again, doesn't mean that the thing didn't happen. All of these points happened, but sometimes the stories we tell ourselves follow a particular line, and we're excluding, we're leaving out little bits that could shape a slightly different story that then feels different to us. So I work a lot with thought challenging. I'm trained in what we call cognitive restructuring. So that is the reshaping of our thoughts. It's a technique in cognitive behavioral therapy. And I always think about, I cannot change what happens, and I can't change, I don't want to change necessarily what my story is, but just thinking about, have I missed anything here? So if I'm thinking, oh, I've been going to the gym and this hasn't worked and I haven't lost the weight I want, or I haven't, toned the bit of body I want, actually, how have I been eating? How has my stress levels been? Because we know that doesn't help with weight. Am I on any medication that could be impacting this? How much time did I give this? Thinking about the other bits. How much am I moving in my day-to-day life? I'm sorry to use the food and exercise examples. It is something that I feel in the Western world we are commonly faced with, either subconsciously or consciously. And it is a really common thing for the beginning of the new year. As I'm focusing a little bit on new year, coming into spring, coming into planning for the rest of this year and the rest of these seasons and this season of living. Spring is the time where I'm planning and I'm making those first starts. My little sapling is growing its roots and coming up through the soil, starting to see some of the seeds that I planted before winter. I know that health and wellness is a massive topic for people at this time of year. So when you are thinking, given a piece of information, or given this will work, this is how this works, we have evidence for this, for example, again, cognitive behavioral therapy is evidence-based, that we have evidence that it works for some people amazingly, and we have some evidence that suggests that it doesn't work for certain things. But nothing will work for everyone every time. And one of the things I feel like we are encouraged to do in this day and age is believe any piece of information we are given, and if we don't find that works for us, we blame ourselves. And I think it's really important to remember what's being missed. What's that context? What other dots are there? Oh, but I did eat this much junk food before I went to the gym, and I didn't walk for the whole of the week because I went to the gym twice. So I had rest days the rest of it and I didn't move at all. So I hope this has been helpful. Please leave any comments down below. Think about any one-size-fits-all approaches you've tried or you've heard of or that frustrate you. If you like this video, please click like. If you want to see more videos like this, please click the subscribe button down below to be notified. Aiming to put a video up every 2 weeks at this point, just so I can keep it sustainable. And I will see you again in the next video. Bye.